Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how to create Hypotrochoids and Spirographs in CorelDraw. Now, I'm using CorelDraw X8, but this should work in any modern version of CorelDraw. So the first thing we're going to do is create an ellipse that's 1 inch by 4 inches. Come up here to the toolbar and we'll change that to 1 inch by 4 inches. And now we have our ellipse. Next thing you want to do is come up to Window, down to Dockers, and if you don't have the Transform Docker open, click on Transform and then just click on any of these to open up the Transform tool, and it'll show up over here in your Dockers. So the first thing we're going to create is a Hypotrochoid. Instead of creating this from the center or from the top or bottom, we're going to rotate the whole shape to form the Hypotrochoid. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on Rotate here, and we're going to put it in 30 degrees. Then we're going to come down here and right click on the ellipse. We're going to convert to curves. Then we're going to click on the ellipse to bring up the rotation tools. We're going to grab this center rotation point and we're going to put it the top center node. We're going to have one copy. We're going to rotate it 30% and we're going to hit apply. Once it rotates that one, we're going to grab the rotation point and move it down here to that node, and we're going to hit apply again. And we're going to keep doing this 11 times to create the Hypotrochoid. So each time we're going to move the center point to the opposite end, apply to the opposite end, hit apply, move it here, hit apply. And I think we only have to do a couple of more here and we'll be done. Apply. And that's it right there. Now we've created our Hypotrochoid with a 30-degree angle. So we could take a copy of that and we could change that to 45%. Again, we put the rotation at the top center, hit apply. And we'll make this one with a 45-degree angle. Just make sure every time you move that you get it right on that center point so it rotates from the right point. And there we go. There's a Hypotrochoid made out of a 45-degree angle. And you can also create a Hypotrochoid using a 15-degree angle. That'll just take a little longer to make because you'll have more pieces to rotate in order to form the Hypotrochoid. Then what we can do with these is take the Smart Fill tool and you can choose a color. And we can just click on these, fill these in and color them however you want to color them to make different patterns. You could print them out for kids to color them in or anything like that. You could use these like as textures for backgrounds or different things like that. But we'll talk about that more later. I'm going to move these up off the page. The next thing we're going to do is create some spirographs using different shapes and different degrees of rotation. So the first thing we're going to do is create a circle, and we'll just do a 2 inch by 2 inch circle. And what we can do is we can choose a 15-degree rotation, one copy, and we can just hit apply. We need to choose one of these points of rotation here in this little grid. So we'll just choose the bottom one and we're just going to hit apply. And then that makes a spirograph out of circles. We can change the degree of rotation to 30 instead of 15. We can choose one of these corner points and just press apply to make a different kind of spirograph. We can do like a 45-degree and choose this bottom center again and apply that. And that makes a spirograph similar to the first one, just a little more spread out. And again, you could create these to use as textures or watermarks or something in backgrounds. You could use these as design elements. Just all kinds of different things you could do with these. The next one we'll do is the square. we'll just do a 2x2 square. And again, we'll start with a 15 degree. And you'll see if we leave it in the center, it'll just rotate from the center. You'll get one that looks like that. If we leave it on 15 and choose this center bottom one with a 15% rotation, you get a spirograph that looks something like that. We can change this to a 30 degree rotation, and we can choose this right center one, and it'll rotate from that point. So you can try different rotation points and different degrees of rotation to kind of get the look that you want. Next we'll do a polygon, and we'll just do it 2 inches by 2 inches. We'll leave it 30 degrees. We'll rotate it from the bottom center, and you'll get a spirograph that looks something like that. We can do a 15% rotation. We'll do it from this bottom left corner. And you'll get a spirograph that looks kind of like that. So, different shapes will give you different results. This looks kind of more like a rocky kind of look. You can also use a star, and we'll just do that one 2 inches by 2 inches. This one we can do 15% rotation from the center. And you can see that just kind of give you something like that. If we rotate it from the center bottom, let's change that to 30. It'll give us something like that. And if we rotate this from the top center, it'll give us something like that. And like I said, you can change the rotation to whatever you want. You can probably change it to where these would meet up a little better. If we did like a 20% rotation from the top center, and give us a little bit different look. So you can try different rotation points and different degrees of rotation to get different kind of looks. Let's do one more. You can even use basic shapes to create these with. Let's say we use this raindrop. Could stretch that out some. Tell it you want to rotate from the top center, maybe 30 degrees. Just rotate that all the way around, and that kind of looks like a flower or a daisy or something like that. So if you were doing some kind of heat transfer design with a flower like this, you could always put a little circle in the middle. Make it into a daisy. And then if you wanted to, if you have this Design Wizard from TRW, if you do rhinestones, what we could do is we could select all this, make a copy of it, come up here and we could weld it all together. Could delete all those center points there. Then we could do one island fill to the outside with a 0.2 spacing. We'll do the detect corners here. Hit the island fill, and now that'll create like a rhinestone outline. We could cut this out of heat transfer vinyl, cut this out of heat transfer vinyl, and then we could just have this around the outside. And that way it would be heat transfer vinyl with like rhinestones around the outside. So that's just another way you can use these as custom designs. Alright, so the last thing we're going to create is kind of an ornamental flower. We're just going to take a circle. We'll do like a 2 inch by 2 inch circle. We'll drag this over and make a copy right there, even with that one. Make a copy right there. Select both of those. And we're going to come up here to Object, Shaping, Intersect. And we're just going to take that middle piece out that it created for the intersect. Little football looking shape there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to rotate that from the bottom 180 degrees. One copy. Then we're going to grab both of those. We're going to change this to 30 degrees, and we're going to rotate that from the center, and we're just going to apply it until we get all the way around to there. Now you could do this 15% if you wanted to. That would just make more petals on the flower. We could do it like that. That way we could create more petals. But for right now, we're just going to do the 30-degree rotation. Like that. So let's make that a little bigger. Let's make it 4x4. We're going to select this. I'm going to do Object, Align, and we want to center that in the center of the page. Whoops, that didn't work right. Alright, let's right click on that and group it together. Now we can do Object, Align, Center, and you can also select that and hit P on the keyboard and that'll center it to the page. You know what, I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger, 5 inches by 5 inches. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our ellipse tool and we want to make a circle here in the center. And let's just do it 2 by 2. And we'll press P to center that with the page. Then I'm going to come over here and right click on this white X to take off the stroke. I'm going to come over here to my interactive fill tool, come up here to the gradient, click on the gradient. I want to change it to this one here, which is a radial gradient. And I want to change this color. I'm going to change that to a blue color. That's good. Then I want to take this circle and send that to the back. Object, Order, to back of page. Now that's behind our petals. So then I want to draw another circle here in the middle. And we'll do that one maybe 0.5 by 0.5. And we'll press P, make sure that's centered in the middle of the page. And we'll right click on this to take that stroke off. We'll click our interactive fill tool again. And we'll do another radial gradient. And this time we want to pick a darker blue for that one. For the center. Alright, we'll leave it at that. And then one more time we want to draw one more circle. And we want that to go along the outside. And we're going to fill that with like a baby blue kind of color. There we go. And we'll right click here on the X to get rid of the stroke. Again, we'll go to Object, Order, to back a page. Let's press P, make sure it's centered. Now we want to click on our Smart Fill tool, come up here to Options, and we want to choose white. Just change that to RGB to white. And then we can come here and we can click on these. Fill those in. We can click on these and fill those in. Then we can click on our Pick tool. We want to click on the center dot. Then we'll hold down Shift and click on those black lines so that we select both of those. Then we want to do Object, Order, to the front of the page. That way we can see those lines and all in there. And this gradient, we'll select this gradient fill and we'll hold down Shift and drag that out a little bigger to right there. Then we can just paste those back on there. We'll click on the center one. We'll make that a little bit bigger. And let's not quite that big. That's pretty good. Okay, so now we have our petals done. We have the gradient in the back. We have the little button on top. We have our background color. We can click on these black lines. We can either leave them black. We can change them to a really dark blue by right clicking on the dark blue. We can also come up here and change the stroke width to maybe 1 point. Make those lines stand out a little more. And then we want to just do one more thing along the outside here. So I'm going to drag out a guide here. I'm going to line it up right in the center. And I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. And I'm going to get my pen tool. And I just want to draw a shape here from the center. Just kind of draw a little shape. And you can draw whatever shape you want to draw. Make it look however you want it to look. It's going to be your design, your flower, your petal, so you can make it look however you want it to look. Let's get rid of that one. So we'll take that shape, we'll click on it, drag it, right click to make a copy, flip that over, bring it over here, line them up. Now we'll select both of those. And in order to join these two nodes, we're going to hit Shift, Control, and J. And that'll bring up this tolerance. And since both of those nodes are right on top of each other, we can leave the tolerance at 0, hit OK, and that's going to join those two together. If we get our shape tool and click on that, you'll see that it's joined those 2 points together. So once we have these two shapes joined, we want to click, we'll drag straight down, right click to make a copy, and let's make sure those are lined up in the centers there. That one's in the center, that one's in the center. Now we want to shrink this one down some, so we'll hold Shift and drag, shrink it down. Let's move that up a little bit to there. Then we'll select both of those shapes and we'll come over here to our Join Curves palette. We could probably use Extend just to connect those together. So we'll just do Extend, maybe 1 inch gap, and hold on, those aren't, there's more room there than there is there. Alright, so let's do this over. Shift, we'll reduce the size of that, then we'll drag that straight up about there. There, that's better. Alright, now let's select them both. Come over here to our Join Curves Docker. We'll do a 1 inch gap tolerance, and you can see the little blue lines, which means that when we hit apply, it's going to join those together. So now we have that as one shape. We'll come down here to our interactive field tool. We'll do a gradient again. We're just going to leave it as a linear gradient this time. We'll bring that down here. We'll rotate this around. So that way we have our gradient going this way. We want to click on the black dot here. Click this. We'll come up here, get a blue color. Kind of a dark blue color. Then we'll click on this one. Click here, we'll click on the dropper tool, click down here in the blue, and then we'll find something that's in that color range. That way it fades from a dark blue to a lighter blue. Can even pull that back a little bit. There we go. Then we want to come over here and right click on the X to get rid of the stroke. Then we'll zoom back out. Now what we want to do is we want to click on this to bring up the rotate. We want to take that rotation point, put it right here in the center. And now what we want to do is come back to our transform tool. We want to do 180 degrees. We want to rotate from the center. Whoops, our point moved, so let's move that back down here. And we want to do one copy and hit apply. And now you see it has one copy here and one copy at the bottom. Okay, so before we make all these copies, let's click both of these. Object, order to the back of page. That way they're behind. And I want to scoot these in a little more, so I'm just going to click on this one and arrow that up about 5 spaces. And I want to make sure that's centered right on that line. I'm going to click on both of those. Just want to make sure they're lined up 100%. Object, align, centers. Bring that there to the center. Let's hit P to make sure it's aligned with the page. Whoops. First of all, let's group them together. Object, group, group objects. Now let's hit P. Make sure it's aligned with the center of the page. Now we're going to change the rotation to 15 degrees of rotation, and we're going to hit apply until it comes all the way around to here, and then this side will come all the way up to there. And that's too far. Let's change it to 7.5, which is half of that. That's a little close now. Let's try 10. There we go. There we go. Now we've created an ornamental border around that. We can click on this outer circle. We can add a dark blue stroke to that. And let's make that about 10 points. Ugh, that's too much. Maybe 8. There we go. And then that gives us a little bit of a border. Gives us a little ornamental outside. Has a little flower in the middle. And you can do these whatever color you want to do them. You can do them different colors. You can, do the petals at different rotations to get more petals or less petals. You can kind of do different shapes on the outside so that they look different. You could do like a triangle shape. You could just do a round shape. So you could do these any way you wanted to do them. You could leave them solid without creating a hole in the middle. You could just do a solid one. You could leave the strokes on them if you wanted to. It's just all up to you how you want to do it. Actually looks pretty good with the stroke on it. So we could add the strokes to all those just to kind of give it a little more definition. And you could just create different ornamental flowers like this. You could use the other spirographs to create different kind of shapes in the middle. You could use the Hypotrochoids to create the shapes in the middle and do these little floweries on the outside. And again, if you have this design wizard, you could select all of this, drag it over here, make a copy, right click and make a copy, come up here and weld it all together. Just make one outline like this. And then what you could do is come over here and create one island fill to the outside. 0.2 spacing, detect the corners, add rhinestones, island fill. That would give you a rhinestone border to go around that. Just press P to center that on the page. We don't want any fill on that. Whoops. There we go. Had a little fill on it from that. We got rid of it. Thought we could do rhinestones around it. Whole lot of different possibilities you can come up with using these Hypotrochoids and Spirographs and creating these ornamental flowers. You could also leave them blank, just leave the outlines and no color. You could print them out and color them in. Have your kids or your grandkids color them in. Anyway, I know a lot of you are thinking, I'll never use this, but there's a lot of cool things you can do with this. Maybe this will help you get your creative mojo going and figure out some different ways to make some cool graphics. If you do like printing or sublimation or stuff like that, and you're trying to make some abstract backgrounds, you could use something like this as watermarks in the background. You could use them as textures and backgrounds just to kind of give it a different kind of look instead of just a flat background. If you do like quilting, you could print these out on sublimation paper and then cut your little squares and sublimate these onto the little squares for quilting. You can make custom quilts. If you're doing like a family quilt, you could have photographs. You could use something like this for a photo frame. You could put a photo in there and use this for the photo frame. Print that out on sublimation paper and sublimate that to one of your squares to quilt with. And you could do like, a family quilt like that. You could use these ornamental flowers to fill in the gaps between. If you create your own patterns for fabric, you could do something like this. You could create like a paisley shape, and then you could rotate it around and create some unique shapes with a paisley shape to, print on your fabric. Or if you make clothes or you're a fashion designer, you could use this method to create some unique looking graphics to be printed on fabric or, to be sublimated or whatever onto your clothing line. Just all different kinds of things you could do with this method. So even if you never use this technique exactly like I've shown you, you may be able to use this technique in other ways to create some unique graphics. So anyway, I guess that's about it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. If you like this video and would like to see more, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.